Hi guys, and today I'll be playing Hell Trap. Yule wants revenge. He'll make the person he hates the most suffer the same way they made him suffer. And what hurts more than having your beloved family taken away? So let's start. Dreams can come true. My breath puffed into small clouds as a soft shiver ran through my body. The snowflake fell from the sky and landed on the harsh pavement, as well as on my lashes and face. The now white streets were empty, and the only sound entering my ears was the snow crunching beneath my boots. My small hands were red and tender from the icy weather. They were cold. So cold. Yule! A shrill voice sounded faintly behind me. My ears perked up. I knew this voice. Yule, wait. Now rapid steps started closing in on me. They sounded just like my own, crunching in the snow beneath them. Tap, 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 tap. As soon as they stopped right behind me, I felt a hit on the back of my head. Ooh. I told you to wait, dumbass. I shot my head to the person that whacked me. What met me was hair as dark as mine, flowing above her small and childish shoulders. Big round black eyes, and cheeks that were tinted red due to the cold. It was obvious to an outsider that she was my sister, and I was her brother. Her name was... Huh? Why can't my brain picture her name? I knew it so well. I looked at her with an annoyed look on my face. Ouch, stop hitting me. I rubbed a slightly throbbing spot on the impact and frowned. You always just leave before me. Can't your stupid ass wait 5 minutes? It always takes so long. It'll be home 10 times before you finally show up. My voice showed how annoyed I was at her. Let me guess, you were daydreaming again? Her angry face suddenly turned into a mischievous and bashful grin. Knew it. From the day we entered the womb until now, 10 years later, we shared everything. Our eye color, our hair color, our birthmark on our left cheek, our clothes, our home, each other. One thing we didn't share was our mind. People always said we were polar opposites. She was a cat, I was a dog. She was the artist, I was a mathematician. She lived in her dreams while I lived in reality. We just complemented each other. Like two puzzle pieces. We completed the other. You can't just sink into your dreamland every day. Look. I pointed at her shoes. You're not even wearing the same shoes. She gasped and spread out her arms in shock. She looked down at herself and gaped at her feet, one adorned with a winter boot and the other with the house shoe she wore in school. What? I didn't even notice. She gripped her house shoe foot and looked at it in disbelief, as if she couldn't grasp this piece of clothing was actually on her. So that's why my foot was cold. What? I rolled my eyes. Crazy how your mind isn't where it's supposed to be, even when you're about to freeze to death. My voice was monotonous. Hey, but this time I imagined something super duper cool. No, now she's starting to rumble again. Her mouth started running and all I could hear was blah blah blah. She kept talking and I barely listened to what she had to say. It was nonsense. She always preferred thinking about nonsense over walking home together with me. I didn't leave too early today. She left too late. I kept walking. At first she didn't even notice I was already walking ahead as she was too caught up talking to herself again. Once she noticed I was already way ahead of her, she yelled, "Hey, are you even listening? Wait up, you stupid horse." She started running after me. She reached out her hand to grab my back, but I spoke before she had the chance. The wind swished in my hair and carried the snowflakes between our two forms. My voice was quiet. "You're the stupid horse. You like being in your dumb dream world more than me." She halted. Her previously annoyed expression faltered. She lowered the hand she wanted to use to grab me or possibly even smack me again and looked at me with a frown on her face. Firm, gloved hands grasped my shoulders and she turned me around to face her. A sudden move made my eyes widen, and I was met with a determined look on her face. Hey, I never said that. She brought me closer to her and pulled me into a clumsy hug. How could I live without my baby brother that desperately needs his big sis for guidance around this world? She bravely started smooching me and embarrassment rose in my face, and I tried pushing her off. Harassment! I yelled overdramatically, feeling shy and shameful at the sudden display of affection. As I pushed my palm against her face, she started laughing. Blank's laughs were always lighten the mood. You're only 10 minutes older than me. Stop acting like I'm the baby. I huffed in dismay and wiped my red cheeks. Ahem. 10 minutes and 34 seconds. She stood straight and put her hands behind her back as if announcing important facts to an audience of professors. She was always way too proud she was the older twin. What a silly girl. And those will be the only minutes of my life that I'll be apart from you. Her gloved hand reached for mine, red and trembling from the biting cold. Yeah, I know, I dream around too much. But do you know what my favorite dream is? She looked at me intently and my heart started beating. She looked at me with those eyes. The eyes that looked at me as if there was nothing more important than me. As if she and I were the only people on this earth. I loved it when she looked at me like that. Staying together with you for the rest of my life. Her words and bright, slightly too wide and slightly too toothy smile made my eyes glisten. I didn't like to say it out loud, but I was happy. Really, really happy. I really don't like anything in this world more than you, Yule. I promise. My hands weren't cold anymore. My body didn't shiver anymore. The cold that was eating itself through my body was chased away by warmth. Fuzzy. The warm and fuzzy feeling was holding my hands with her gloves. I turned my head away, feeling too embarrassed to show her my red face. She teased me again if she saw. She did last time. I'm not sure if I want an annoying sister like you around me for the rest of my life. My fingers slowly wrapped around hers, trying to sink into this feeling of warmth even more. I wanted to soak this feeling up. Have it take over my whole body. And make it stay forever. Hand in hand, we continued walking. The street ended and we started walking on gravel, surrounded by leafless trees and more fluffy snow. Well, I don't have to be in your life, but you need to stay in my life until the end. Her voice sounded like a soft echo through the white and gray void. That doesn't make any sense. Stupid Junebug. Junebug. 'Cause she was born in June. A warm month. Our voice became more and more quiet as we marched further towards the place we called home. Yes, it does. Your seahorse brain just can't understand it. What's with the insults against, animals? Quiet. Now that we're on the topic, what's your dream? Quieter. My dream? As quiet as the snow falling. Come on, give me an answer. Not having a dream is really boring. My memories of that time are blurry. But I know that I didn't have an answer to that question back then. I didn't know what my dream was. Dreaming wasn't something in my nature. Even as time passed, as we both got older and couldn't share our clothes anymore, as we still looked the same but grew into different bodies, as we both had trouble finding a place to call home. I didn't have the need to. Oh gee, Yule, look at the cat! It was our first day at our new high school, place where we would spend our last years and up until graduation. And in front of its gate, a small animal with snowy white fur waited. My sister firmly grasped my hand and pulled me towards the small animal, and I nearly stumbled. Whoa, calm down, you'll rip my arm off. Of course, I had to pet it. She loved cats. She basically threw herself to the ground and started furiously running her hand over the soft, silky fur. The cat rubbed its head against my sister's palm and she squeaked. Yo, it's letting me pet it. Oh my god, oh my god. Her overbearing, overdramatic demeanor was something I have grown used to over the years, but it amused me nonetheless. I looked down at my watch and realized that we only had 5 minutes before the introduction in our school started. I knew she wasn't going to just get up and willingly, so I straight up grabbed the collar of her cardigan, and now I was the one dragging her off with me. Come on now, we need to go. We'll be late, dumbass. No, please, let me pet this cutie patootie. I know you're a few seconds. Few seconds, my ass. You make us stay here for over an hour. Thanks to me, we ended up actually arriving on time for the introduction to start. Our school days were peaceful. I sat at my usual spot inside my class, bent over my desk studying. I had to work late last night and I didn't have time to revise the lessons. My classmates were moving around the classroom, happily indulging in recess. Didn't really have a good bond to any of my classmates, and Blank and I were in the same class, but it was fine. It was fine because we promised to spend our breaks together every day. And so I waited in my classroom for her, while my peers were grouping up with their friends to go eat lunch. I waited for her to show up and eat lunch with me too, just like she always did. It was the time I looked forward to the most. A familiar figure appeared by the doorframe in my class, and my head shot up. I was greeted by her usual smile, a bit too wide and a bit too toothy. Yo, come on, let's eat. Okay. We sat at our usual spot, the staircase. Groups of students of all classes hollered and stirred around us while we unpacked our lunches. My arm pressed against hers as we sat so closely together that one might mistake us as conjoined. Food always tasted a lot better when I ate it with her around. How about you try befriending some people in your class? Now's the perfect opportunity. I grumbled at her remark. She persistently kept bringing that topic up ever since we enrolled. My answer was muffled by chewing noises. Screw that. I don't wanna. Come on, don't be ridiculous. You're always so withdrawn into your own little pea brain that you'll let no one inside. Give them a chance. Or do you want to be that loser that has no friends? She teasingly nudged me with her elbow, a sly grin adorning her face. I already have you. Oh, it sounds like it hurts. She elbowed me in my ribs and with a frown on her face. Ouch. Siblings don't count, you seahorse brain. I pouted while rubbing the spot where she hit me. I never understood why she was so keen on me making me befriend others. Why would I need anyone else if I had her? I had all I need. I had my puzzle piece, my June bug. Everything I had satisfied me. I didn't dare wish for anything else. I just hoped things would stay this way forever. Forever and ever and ever. But it didn't, did it? Why? Why couldn't it have just stayed this way? I was never greedy for more. All I ever wanted was to live this plain, boring, peaceful life. Why was I denied such a simple request? Things started to change the day I got a text message from her in the middle of class that she wasn't feeling well. I was worried, of course, so I wordlessly stormed out of my classroom, ignoring my teacher's demand to stay. I went straight to the infirmary, where she told me she currently stayed at. My steps echoed through the empty hall, void of any students as they were all occupied listening to their teacher's lesson in their designated classrooms. I felt a sense of estrangement walking through these halls at this time of day, knowing I had somewhere else to be, but I pushed that feeling aside and ventured towards the big white doors of my destination. As soon as I opened the doors, my eyes scanned the bleak room to find my sister. On one of the sterile bleached white beds she sat, doubled over with a pale face. The nurse just walked up to her and gave her something that appeared to be medicine. I rushed over. What's wrong? I quickly knelt next to the bed she was sitting on and gently laid my head on her back. She was shivering. It's not that bad. I just feel a bit under the weather. A bit under the weather? Young lady, your friends told me you were vomiting for 10 minutes in the bathroom before they dragged you here. You should really go home. My eyes widened a bit as I heard the nurse's words. You threw up? I was a bit astonished when I was informed she vomited. My sister had a strong stomach, and the last time I remember her vomiting was when we were about 12 years old. It was when our mother died. The only time she ever vomited was because of distress, so naturally I was concerned. It's okay, really. I think the milk I packed for my break was spoiled. My brows furrowed. She was clearly lying. I had the same milk as her for lunch and it was perfectly fine. I looked at her with doubtful eyes. I put my hand on the bed and sat next to her. Are you sure that's it? She stayed silent for a moment. My gut feeling was screaming at me that something wasn't right. Yeah, I'm sure that's it. I already feel a lot better. She looked at me with her smile. And even though it was a little less wide and a little less toothy than usual, it still was successful in convincing me she was indeed feeling better. Her cute smile didn't convince the nurse, though. You should really go home. Couldn't possibly send you back to class like this. Don't worry, I'll inform your teacher. You're having mass with Miss Blanche now, right? I'll tell her you've gone home. My sister's eyes shot open at the suggestion, as if the woman in front of her said something horrible. I know it's mine, She gagged mid-sentence and the bile in her throat muffled her voice. I can't miss any lessons. She suddenly bent over and barfed into the bowl the nurse had already conveniently laid next to her. After she lifted her head again, eyes watery and exhausted from all the vomiting, I inched closer to her and put my hand on her head, petting her hair. Let's go home, Junebug. You really need to rest. She hung her head low and looked at her fingers. Probably realized it wasn't very smart forcing herself to stay at school, so she nodded. What was wrong with her? He walked down the side of the street on her way home. Same path he always walked. Blank had the bag that the nurse gave her shoved into a pocket of her zip-up hoodie in case she was feeling sick again. But strangely enough, once we left school grounds, her signs of nausea seemed to disappear. Our walk was unusually quiet. I didn't like this. I decided to confront her. I know that you don't feel sick because of the milk. Tell me what happened. In the corner of my eye, I saw her stop in her tracks, so I needed to turn around to look at her straight on. Her eyes were fixated on the ground and she seemed to fiddle with her fingers. I'm sorry, Yule. I didn't want to lie to you. I frowned, still not happy with that answer. Her avoidant demeanor threw me off. Then tell me what happened. Her eyes still did not avert from the gray plain stones of the sidewalk. I could nearly hear her brain rattling, trying to think of the right thing to say. She looked up into my eyes, and for a moment she looked like her usual self again. I think I'm just a bit stressed out because of school. You know, because of the scholarship I need to get and stuff. Back then, it seemed like a reasonable enough explanation to me. After our mother passed away, we were left alone with our father. Things never got easier. He left us on our own pretty much ever since. The only thing he does now is send us a measly amount of money every month so we can rent a small apartment for ourselves. We both still work part-time besides school so we can afford enough food, water, and electricity to survive. Meg made it her goal to get into a good university and provide a better life for us too. Of course, I've been trying my best in school too, but she was a lot more determined than I was to get out of our shabby apartment, move to a better place, and make enough money to eat something else besides packaged ramen every day. She always insisted it was her duty as an older sister, even if by just 10 minutes and 34 seconds. Managing a job and keeping top grades was a big feat, and lately we've both been lacking the grades part. I reassuringly put my hands on her shoulder. Junebug, please take it easy. You know I don't mind sharing that cardboard box with you. I said in a light, joking tone. He always called her little apartment a cardboard box because, well, it was about as big as one. He chuckled a bit. Yeah, I know, I just don't mind because you're there. His smile faltered a bit. But I'm sure things will only get harder once we graduate. I'm sure our dear dad won't give us a penny after we turn into legal adults. I bet he's already counting the days until he can throw away his responsibility over us. I just want us to live a good life, Yule. Especially after all we went through. And we will get through everything together, okay? Up until now, we've shared everything every day up and down our life. I'll stay here with you and support you in everything you do. For a fraction of a second, I saw her eyes filled with something unusual. Something I haven't seen in her before. I couldn't quite point my finger at it, what it was, since it was gone as soon as it appeared. It was something that didn't fit my dream bug. I wasn't even quite sure if it was real or if my mind was just playing tricks on me. I assumed the latter as she giggled weakly and wrapped her arm around my neck, putting me in a playful headlock. You better. Planning to keep you by my side until the end of my days. Mwahahaha. I laughed. She laughed too. As much as things seemed to be normal, the pit in my stomach was still there. It was smaller, but I could still feel it. I tried ignoring it, because she showed me there was no need to worry. Look, she even laughed again. We walked down the empty street and everything felt like just another day at last. I was probably just imagining it. Still, I couldn't quite shake it off. In the following days, that feeling only grew stronger and stronger. It was the dead of night when I was woken up by screaming. My eyes ripped open as the piercing sound sent my body into panic mode. I quickly looked around the dark room, only illuminated by the moon that shone through the tiny window of our cardboard box. Once my eyes adjusted to the dark, I saw my sister, kicking and thrashing around in her bed. The noises of pure distress that escaped her mouth made my skin crawl. I quickly rushed to her and rattled her to wake her up. Hey, wake up! Her eyes shot open and drops of sweat ran down her pale face, her breath raggedy and rapid. Her wide eyes looked at the ceiling in terror, tears of distress escaping them. What's wrong? She was still panting and her eyes panically searched the room as if she was looking for the thing that made her so terrified. Her mouth was too busy sucking in air, preventing her from answering me. Did you have a nightmare? The sound of her rapid breathing echoed through the room. A nightmare? Yes. It must have been a nightmare. The situation overwhelmed me. I'd never seen her like this before. She was such an avid dreamer, but she never had nightmares. Not once. This is weird. Very weird. The pit that formed in my stomach a few days prior returned. It ate away my insides and crawled through my body, seemingly towards my head, to scream at me that something was incredibly wrong. Something else was bothering her. Not just school stress. I felt it. I felt it deep in my core that I couldn't pinpoint what it was. She didn't have anything else that could bother her. I mean, I knew everything there was to know about her. Everything. Suddenly, she threw herself at me, pulling me into a tight hug. So tight, it was almost hard to breathe. I don't want to go anymore. She whimpered shakily, almost inaudible due to her sobs as she pressed her face against my shirt and wet it with her tears. Go where? She cried. She cried loudly. I don't want to go to that school anymore. It threw me off guard. I didn't understand where that thought was suddenly coming from, and she was so persistent on going to school to get her education. She was always the one wanting to make it big and get us out of here. Why the sudden change? It was weird. Very weird. I truly did not know how to respond to her. That night I felt like I was holding a different person in my arms. Someone I couldn't reach. My hand just caressed her head and her sobs slowly quieted down. Everything about her quieted down. Ugh, I feel like it's what I'm thinking. I hope not. It was another late day at school. The leaves already started falling and the cold began creeping into the school building. The sky was dark already, most students being home at this hour. I walked through the dimly lit, empty hallway carrying a box full of supplies for my teacher. My steps echoed through the empty space. Tap, 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 tap. I was closing in on the teacher's office, my destination, when I suddenly heard something. It was a very faint sound. It was loud enough to make me freeze in my tracks. It was sobbing. My Junebug sobbing. I set down the box in the middle of the hallway and frantically tried figuring out the source of the sounds. Young miss, I can't help you if you don't tell me what's wrong. The principal's voice led me to believe she was in his office. I rushed to the door, which was fortunately open just a crack, enough for me to peek in. What I saw before me made my blood run cold. In front of the principal, who was leaning on his desk with his arms crossed, was my sister, crying, just the way she was that night when she had woken me up from her with her nightmare. No, crying was an understatement. She was terrified, shaking, hot tears like a waterfall. My heart sank, and blood rose up in my throat as I realized that this bad feeling I had just proved itself to be true. I was right after all. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Wrong beyond what I could have possibly imagined. Beyond what I had told myself to be the cause of her distress. She wasn't crying because of school stress. She wouldn't have turned to the principal, and she wouldn't have looked like this if that was all there was to it. I was scared of what she was about to tell the man before her. One side of me anticipated to finally know the answer of the riddle that I had faced the past week. The other felt that it would be better if I didn't know at all. A tiny bit of me wished to keep this blockade, the conviction that all of that was bothering her was stress, alive. But my body was frozen in place, unable to dart my eyes or ears away, and thus was forced to listen. For a brief moment, she took some shaky breath, trying to calm herself. It only worked so well because her voice was still broken and weak when she started speaking. Her thin words entered my ears and caused my vision to blur for a moment. My blood froze. I felt like the whole world froze. That moment when she told that man the truth she hid from me, the truth she talked her way around from me, my world fell apart. I realized how unaware I was, how I didn't know everything about her. I didn't know everything about her at all. But now I know. I know what really happened. No, it wasn't school stress. I know it wasn't. I now know that the day before the incident in the infirmary, she stayed late in school catching up. Sleep wasn't coming to her easily as she worked late the past weeks, impacting her ability to concentrate in school. She was nervous about her academic performance. Even though she did everything in her might to make it, things didn't look good. Working and studying simultaneously has taken a toll on her, and it was visible. Her boss has scolded her numerous times for her lack of focus and making too many mistakes, and she knows her performance in school dropped just as much. The fact that neither work nor school was going well made her anxious. Anxious about the future. All she wanted was to live a good life, after all. I know she was sitting at her desk in the desolate classroom, hunched over her schoolwork, struggling to keep up with the pace of the topics. The sky was already tinted black, and the only sound that could be heard was her pencil furiously hitting the rough, wrinkled paper and clock ticking. I know she didn't stay alone for long. I know that soon after, another person entered the classroom. She, her math teacher. What was her name again? I hate thinking about her. It was a name that didn't fit her. A name way too innocent and pure for a woman like her. Ah, now I remember. Miss Blanche. Miss Blanche entered the classroom. The door quietly fell back into its lock as she pushed it closed again, her eyes darting towards the sole figure sitting at her desk this late. She slowly approached her heels clacking on the floor. The sound ripped my sister out of her concentrative state and her head jolted up. Blanche leaned on her desk. Still at school so late? What's the reason? She asked with a fake concern on her face. I just need some extra time to revise. Haven't had much time recently, my sister responded with a nervous smile on her face. Miss Blanche was usually such a strict and snake-tongued teacher, so the sudden switch in attitude unnerved her. I hope it's okay that I use this classroom, my sister added timidly, turning her head slightly to the side to avoid the woman's piercing eyes. Oh, I don't have a problem with that. It's just, I think that's a pity that you have such a burden on yourself, having to keep up with both school and also working part-time. How do you know that? Oh, I've seen you work at the restaurant a couple of times. It's always so busy. Probably you haven't even noticed I'm a regular there. Handling school and such a stressful job must be exhausting. You see, I noticed how tired you are. You end up napping on your table in the middle of my class on more than one occasion. A small giggle that was laced with a hint of pity left Miss Blanche's lips. Feeling called out, she looked down at her desk. This wasn't the first time a teacher pointed this out. It really breaks my heart to see a student of mine work herself to death and fail classes at the same time. Especially when she needs that good graduation diploma so desperately. You have so much on your plate, having the responsibility to get in money for food and basic survival while having such little family support must be really hard. Long black hair covered her face as she hung her head lower. What her teacher said was true after all, even if she didn't like to admit it. She knew she had to graduate with good grades if she didn't want her future to be occupied by financial issues. Her eyes darted down on the homework she's been working on the past hour. Even though it wasn't halfway done, she already struggled with the topic. Frustration filled her face at the thought of not being able to graduate. She wanted to leave the city so bad. Leave the city, leave everything behind, and start a new, better life with me. With her little brother Yule. But with the way things were at the moment, this goal of hers seemed farther away more than ever. But to your luck, I have a little proposal for you. Ooh. I want to help you lift some weight off your shoulders by improving your grades in math. Of course, those words struck a sensitive spot. With a gaze both filled with surprise and hope, my sister looked up straight at Miss Blanche. Really? How? Blanche leaned closer, decreasing the proximity between their faces. Her figure cast a shadow over her. See, I will give you a few extra points, Blanche whispered quietly, as if telling her a secret, if you agree to do something for me. Something in that voice and those words caused a pit to form in her stomach. A bad feeling spread across her body, telling her to get away. But the chance of catching a golden opportunity kept her on her chair, listening. Do what? She asked quietly. Oh, nothing difficult. Blanche leaned closer, her faces almost touching. My sister leaned back slightly, feeling uncomfortable with this way too intimate proximity. Oh, all I want. Blanche's hand slowly reached out and laid itself on top of my sister's, making her flinch. All I want from you is to show me a good time. Her eyes widened rapidly. Her breath became shallow and cold sweat erupted on her skin. Her body instinctively froze. Her mind had trouble to put the loose suggestion her teacher just told her in order. She wasn't sure if she even heard it right. Reality set in quickly when she looked up in Mrs. Blanche's eyes. She was serious, dead serious. Sister's throat was tied. Blanche's gaze filled with heavy superiority and power intimidated the teenage girl too much to speak. Instead, all she could do was shake her head. But that didn't suffice as an answer. No wasn't what Blanche would accept. Come on now, don't be shy. I know you need to pass this class. Her grip around my sister's wrist tightened. Stop. Her voice was thin, and it was evident that the fear inside of her started to rise rapidly. She tried to yank her wrist out of the crushing grip of Blanche, but it didn't budge. Don't be like that. Oh my god. You're a virgin, right? What? No worries, normal to be scared. What? Oh my god, I was really hoping this wasn't it. I'll try to be gentle with you. She didn't finish her sentence as Blanche reached over the desk and pounced the girl before her, making her fall backwards on her chair, pressed with her back on the floor. The woman sat on top of her, one hand on her shoulder to keep her to the cold wood floor, and the other hand, oh, the muffler screams. Ugh. Her bloodshot, wide-open eyes looked at the ceiling. The classroom continued to be filled with her muffled whispers, cries as Blanche's... Oh man, I don't want to read this part. She touched her. Well, no teacher should ever touch her student. No one should. What? I now know. I know because that's what she told the principal that day. It all made sense now. The vomiting, the nightmares, that feeling in my stomach. It all came together. I burst the door open. My hand clutched the doorknob and my eyes split wide open as drops of cold sweat ran down my face. The principal and my sister flung their head towards me. I was an intruder after all. What are you doing here? Her voice was filled with disbelief, and it was clear that I had just heard something I wasn't supposed to hear. I ignored my sister's question and stormed up to her, roughly gripping her shoulders and lowering my head towards her. My hands were shaking, and my breath ragged. Panic and horror gleamed in my eyes as I held her. Tell me this isn't true. My eyes were starting to feel watery, suppressing the urge to cry, becoming harder and harder by the second. I fought against the thought of my Junebug having been sexually assaulted. I rejected the idea with all my power. I didn't want to believe it. She looked down, avoiding my gaze. Tell me this isn't true. I couldn't contain my desperation and anguish in my voice anymore. My voice unwillingly rose in volume. I started shaking her, as if trying to rattle the answer I yearned for out of her frail, already shaky body. I wasn't so much trying to convince her that it wasn't true, but myself. I didn't want this to become true. No, it couldn't be. If it were true, if this really happened, then what should I do then? I was at a loss for words. My throat ached to let out my feelings in forms of screams, but in that moment, my body felt numb and my mind was blank. All that echoed through the room, where my heavy breathing, my eyes glued on her face that turned away from me. Eyes bore into her, as if trying to pull out the confession that this was all just a hoax, a lie, a bad dream, not real. I waited for her to look at me in the eyes with her usual glisten and a wide, cute smile, telling me that I misheard. Her reins covered her face as she lowered her head even further, visibly feeling shameful. Don't look at me. Her words caused hot and cold waves to overcome my body. It finally dawned on me. This was now reality, and life would never be the same from now on. Would you mind explaining why you just barged into our conversation, young man? The stern voice of the principal ripped my gaze away from my cowering sister. His nonchalant demeanor made my skin crawl and anger boiled up inside me. Why was he just standing there? Why wasn't he doing anything? Why didn't his facial expression change at all when she told him this? Why wasn't he horrified and reassuring her he will handle this problem? Why was there nothing at all? Why don't you explain why the hell you aren't saying anything about this? Do you even realize what you just said? I couldn't help but to raise my voice at this man. He just stood there like he was told that today's lunch menu was changed. He stood there like this girl didn't just tell him one of his teachers that sexually assaulted her. Don't raise your voice at me, you. And explain to me why the hell you aren't getting your ass up and reporting this bitch to call a teacher of yours. What the hell are you waiting for? Are you too stupid to do your own goddamn job right? If you don't, oh, silent. Oh my god, this principal tried to brush it. They always do that. His loud explanation made me wince and interrupted my speech. I took her hand in mine. Now listen to me, you two. Did you really think I would believe that? What? Huh? My heart sank. Silly story, what? I worked with Miss Blanche for 15 years now, and I think it's absolutely unacceptable to throw such vile accusations around yourself. Besides, no woman would ever be capable of doing such things to a girl. Yes, they would. My face hardened. I could feel bile climbing up to my throat. The grip around my sister's hand tightened as anger started boiling up inside me. I'm really disappointed in you, young miss. I'm well aware your grades have been declining recently, but making up such nasty claims as a way of getting back at your teacher is really unacceptable. He was supposed to help her. He was the only person that could have done something in that situation. He didn't believe her. Not only that, he also claimed she was lying. Lying because she was bitter about her grades, portraying her as some petty brat, like she's nothing but dirt under his shoes. All I could see was red. All I could feel was red. My hand released its hold on the limp hand of her, and I loudly slammed my palms on his desk. I don't remember much of what happened afterwards. Maybe I just don't want to remember. Even my head hurt too much after I screamed at the principal for not taking her serious. Maybe I was too blinded by rage as I gripped his collar and spat in his face. Maybe I don't want to remember because in that moment I felt truly helpless. Maybe forgetting would make things less hurtful for me. We were kicked out of his office, and I was let off with a month of detention for my disrespectful attitude. Her and I just stood in the empty, dark hallway with nothing but the dim light coming from outside shining down on us through the window. Casted a shadow over her, dark enough to conceal her face. The only features I could make out in the dark were her soulless eyes staring into the void. My stirred-up emotions started settling down as we were now alone, surrounded by silence. I turned towards her. Then my voice was stuck in my throat as soon as I heard her uttering, "I'm ruined." It was nothing more than a whisper. She didn't seem to be talking to me, but more to herself, as her eyes were still fixated on the invisible object in front of her rather than me. I'm dirty." Tears filled her dull eyes. I have to live with this now? I really have to live with this? That sight made my gut twist and turn. For the first time in my life, I felt distant from her. She felt untouchable. I raised my hand and stretched it forward towards her to prove myself wrong. "Junebug, I promise everything will be okay." "Shut up." My hand froze midair. "Shut up. Don't blabber about how things will be fine again." She sounded brittle. Her clenched fists were trembling. How could things ever be fine again? Hearing her words ripped my heart to pieces. It was like I was no longer talking with my sister I have come to know so well over the years, and instead a total stranger. "But we can..." "No, we can't. This isn't a we problem here. You don't know jackass about this." I was silent. My face went blank as her words shot straight to my chest, slowly bleeding out. Because I knew she was right. "You can't understand." She huffed, her voice hoarse from the yelling. "How could you ever understand?" Her anger and desperation turned into defeat. How could anyone ever understand? See, even that stupid old man didn't freaking believe me. Of course, who would? Her voice grew louder and louder as if materializing her anguish and pain with her vocal cords. Just accept it. You can't do shit about this. Just stop lying to me, saying we can handle this together. There is no together in this. You didn't have to go through this. Only I did. Don't act like you understand. Her shoulders slumped, and her desperate expression faltered and fell blank. The yelling escaping her mouth turned back into helpless, shaky stutters. Drip, drop. Don't you get it? Silence engulfed us. My throat was tied. There was no us in this, Yulian. I'm all alone now. My vision started spinning. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be how things really were now. This isn't how life was supposed to be. Junebug. My words were nothing more than a thin croak, and I gulped to make the clump in my throat disappear, but to no avail. I attempted to stretch out a shaking hand again to wrap myself around her, to pull her into my arms and protect her from the cruel reality, but my motion was cut short by her slapping my hand away. She rejected me. For the first time in my life, she rejected me. And with that, she ran. Junebug! I yelled, my hand still extending towards her, but she was already gone. Eaten up by the dark, bleak ends of the empty hall. She was gone. My Junebug. Flew from my grasp. You're only 10 minutes older than me. Stop acting like I'm a baby. 10 minutes and 34 seconds. And those will be the only minutes in my life that I'll be apart from you. Yeah, I know, I dreamed around too much. But don't you know what my favorite dream is? Staying together with you for the rest of my life. My little Junebug. Head always in the clouds. Too dreamy to put on the right shoes, but always attentive enough to not make me feel left behind. My one. My all. My everything. I love you so much. More than anything in this world. Your dream did come true. Your dream sounded... Oh my god. Sounded like a skull cracking open on concrete. Who... We really stayed together until your very end. My legs give out. Black. My vision collapsed for a second, and a weight of the dark, gray sky fell upon my head. There was no way to tell if I felt hot or cold, if it was day or night, or if my heart was beating or standing still. Everything crashed upon me at once. I could feel the contents in my stomach rising up my throat, and the urge to vomit was hard to control. My eyes were shot wide open, and I couldn't look away from the gruesome scene before me. The long black hair, the broken bones, the splatters of blood. Blood. Everywhere. Blood. It wasn't just any blood. It was my flesh and my blood that was spread on this dirty ground. A coppery scent. A cold breeze of an autumn air. And silence. It was the first time I saw someone die before my eyes. I never thought I would see her die. I thought she would be in my life forever. Back then my mind couldn't comprehend she was dead. I routed her. Junebug, wake up. I rattled her. Wake up. I rattled her. Rattle, 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 rattle. Rattle, 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 rattle. But her body stayed limp. I'd never seen a body be so limp. My hand reached out to touch hers, desperate to feel her warmth again. I needed it. Her warmth always made me feel better. The warmth that electrified my body. That made me feel safe. That made me feel happy. But she was cold. Her hand was cold. Ice cold. I called out for her. I called her by her name. The name I couldn't speak or think of anymore. Recollecting, I can't count how often I said it. Like a mantra. As if it would suck the blood back into her body, readjust her twisted limb, and wash away the dead look and terror in her eyes. My calls for her turned into shouts, my shouts turned into screams, and my screams ended up being interrupted by my violent sobbing. I don't cry. I never cry. That moment, I did. I cried. No, crying was an understatement. I thought I was dying. My eyes were on fire. Sounds of despair, sounds I can't even imagine before, left my lips and echoed through the empty schoolyard. My lungs pumped air in and out at rapid speed. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. The rapid pace of my breathing made my vision dizzy. In this moment, I was glad my vision blurred. I was glad that I didn't have to see her bloody, gory corpse anymore. I didn't want my last pictures of her to look like this. I didn't want to remember her like this. No. So I kept breathing like that. I hoped I would pass out. Pass out and forget I ever saw this. Forget the smell of the cool, crisp autumn air mixed with copper. Forget the sensation of her cold skin. Forget the feeling of her wet, slippery body, blood against my skin. Forget. Just forget. Oh my. No, not the teacher. I will really pounce on that teacher. A voice interrupted my vision, turning back. A voice that made my skin crawl. A voice. Her voice. It sounded like poison in my ears. I heard her heel shoes clack on the ground towards the scene before her figure even entered my field of vision. The sound sent chills down my back, combined with the sweat that had accumulated all over my body, made me feel like I was freezing. My gaze was still fixed forward, but soon a shadow spread across me from the right. The clacks of her shoes came to a halt and she looked downwards. What a waste? Oh my god, I would punch her in her face like I'm so serious. She was such a good girl. My bleak, tear-filled and red-swollen eyes looked up at the woman in disbelief. What I saw was a repulsing look of devaluation and ridicule, eyeing the corpse before her like she was now nothing more than a dead piece of meat. My mind went blank. I've seen her before. I knew her name. It was her. She did this. She did this. She did this. She did this. Blanche. Her head shot in my direction, looking down on me with half-closed, bored eyes. And what are you looking at me like that for? I couldn't control myself anymore. The thread that held on to my sanity. The last speck of it. I felt it snap. My head turned off, and my body acted on its own. Before I knew it, my hands violently grabbed her collar. Why did you do this? My sister, why did you? My pupils were nothing more than a dot, and the blood vessel threatened to pop out. I could feel the hot tears flow out of my dry, teared-open eyes and down the cold skin of my face. But I ignored them. I ignored everything around me. I ignored the cold air creeping into my skin. I ignored my knees burning from being pressed into the rough stone ground. The only thing I could see was this woman's face. A face that burned itself into my brain. I will never forget how she looked at me. As if I was some annoying dog that just dirtied her clothes. Doing this to her? I don't know what you mean, she sneered. Speeding forward, her hands gripped my wrists and pried them off her clothes. She was a woman, but her grip strength made me shiver. I felt a surge of rage and disgust as her rough skin stuck to mine. All I could think was how my sister had to endure this feeling. A lot longer than I did. The thought that she touched my sister with those filthy hands made me want to vomit. I know what you did. My voice began to shake. Feelings I had never felt overcame me. Feelings that were buried deep in my primal instincts. Feelings that made my heart feel like it was about to explode. Feelings that made my temperature drop and spike again. Feelings I felt. I felt a lot. Too much. Way too much. I screamed. I know what you did. I didn't care that my throat was about to burst. I know what you freaking did. Louder, even louder. Loud enough so everyone could hear. Loud enough so the gods in the freaking sky would know. But not loud enough for her to hear me. I frantically thrashed around, her hand still tightly crushing my wrist. I couldn't stand feeling her poisonous skin on me anymore. My throat was about to give out. I know this is your fault. I know it's your fault, you stupid bitch. She stayed silent and looked at me, looked down upon me. Wait for her to say something, anything. The only thing I heard were my huffs of exhaustion. Oh, so you know. She bent closer to me, dangerously close. I could feel her hot breath on my face, and the peppermint in her breath stung my face. She roughly gripped my face. Well, I know a lot too, you brat. An immense sense of dread overcame me. Her cold eyes drilled holes in mine and almost hurt. Those eyes stared at my sister's body. Those fingers touched her. My Junebug had to endure all of this. I tried yanking myself away from her repulsing presence, but her grip on me only tightened. I know that you went to the principal's office to tell on me. My eyes widened even more. Her face got even closer to mine, and her presence made me feel small. Do you want to know what else I know? That he didn't believe a freaking thing. Hearing those words from her mouth was like a punch in the stomach. I knew that too. I knew that this bastard didn't believe her, but hearing it from that woman's mouth was like immediate defeat. She put on a mocking pout. Female teacher doing that to a female student? No way, that would never happen, would it? Her voice was full of theatrics and spite. I didn't have to look at her to see that she was making fun of me, making fun of my sister, mocking us. I never felt so helpless. I couldn't even argue with her. I knew deep down nobody would believe her story, but I knew it was true. I saw it in my Junebug's eyes. My strength started to swindle. My body was exhausted and I couldn't take this torture much longer. I won't let you get away with this. My voice was barely a croak. I will make you pay for this. I had exhausted my voice, making me have trouble forming words with my vocal cords, making my thread seem more than empty syllables. That woman's grip was still tight in my jaw, and I dug my fingernails into her skin to try to get her off me. But she didn't. Instead, she gripped harder. Oh yeah? I could hear the taunting tone in her voice. You will? Really? She leaned in closer with her whispering voice entering my ear. You stupid boy. I've already gotten away with it. I froze. She's dead. She removed herself as evidence. Who will tell on me, and with which proof? No one saw, no one heard, and even if no one would believe. Her tone grew even quieter. No one can get me for it. Not even you. She pulled me back and looked at me in the eyes again. A sneer adorned her face. What are you gonna do about it, huh? She mockingly pat my face. What you gonna do? Cry about it? You're gonna cry about it? Why is she mocking me? Oh my god. She laughed. My face was void of any expression. I died. She killed me. She killed me just like she killed my sister. She killed Yule. Yule was gone. She finally let go of my body, limply fell to the ground. My glasses slipped off my face and headed towards the ground with me where they snapped in half. Her form rose again. I didn't have the strength to hold my body up anymore, so I pressed to the cold, hard ground. Let me give you one last piece of advice. To make your life a lot easier, learn to live with your mouth shut and just forget. Don't make a fool of yourself and live on. With that, she was gone, and took the life I had with her. My eyes slowly fell, closed, collapsing from exhaustion. The last thing I smelt was my sister's blood. The last thing I felt was the cold, stale air hitting my face. My body and her body were laid on the ground were two corpses. Days passed, weeks passed, maybe even months. I don't know. Time didn't feel real. I sat at my desk in my classroom. Everyone already left for break. I was surrounded by empty chairs. My head laid on my desk. Silence. Nothing. 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 Yule. My ears perked up. The voice my heart yearned for. You're such a sleepyhead. Come on, let's eat lunch. My head shot up. My heart pounded. A glint of hope ignited. Just like we always do. I looked at the door frame. Nothing looked back. No one was there. Junebug wasn't there. I bit into my dry, tasteless sandwich. Eating was nothing more than my lower jaw moving against my upper teeth. How was your class today? Did you finally manage to talk to one of your classmates? I promise I won't be mad if you want to spend lunch with someone else besides me from time to time. I would love to meet the people you make friends with. I longed to hear her say that to me. My heart yearned to hear her nag me again for only hanging out with her. I wanted her to make fun of me. I wanted her to laugh with me. I just wanted to have her warmth next to me again. One more time. I was cold. So cold. My body ached for someone to stand beside me. Where is my Junebug? Where is she hid? She must be here. She must be somewhere. Where has my Junebug gone to? Where is my Junebug? My Junebug. Junebug? The bell rang, announcing the end of the school day. I didn't even notice the time changing. Before I knew it, my feet carried me over to the sidewalk towards my usual way home. The students I went the same way huddled in front and behind me with my ears blocked out all the noises they made. I halted. Come on, Yule, hurry up. I want to eat that new packaged ramen flavor waiting at home. I wanted her to say that to me. I wanted her to walk this path with me again. I wanted her to grab my hand and walk right beside me again. I wanted her to go home with me again. Our home. Please. Please give me this feeling back. Where is my warmth? Why are my hands so cold? Why does my chest hurt? Why are my eyes so wet? Why was she taken from me? Why was she so important to me? Why is her image starting to blur in my head? Why is it hard to remember our times together? Why does it feel like she never existed? I can't even say her name. Something in me won't let me. I became a lonely existence. There was nobody to wipe my tears, so I stopped crying. Crying only hurt me. I didn't want to feel like this anymore. A black void surrounded me. Still. Everything was still. This nothingness that engulfed me, it ate away at my heart and made it rot. Every time I looked into the mirror, I saw her image reflecting. I saw our hair, our eyes, our skin, our birthmarks. There was no we. Just I. I tried changing my appearance, wanting to get rid of my resemblance of her, just so my heart wouldn't hurt when I looked at myself. I bought a cheap hair coloring kit in the nearest drugstore. My resemblance of her and of me disappeared. The bleach ate away at my scalp and my hair follicles, but it didn't eat away at what I wanted gone the most. This crushing feeling of incompleteness. I became a new person on the outside, and my inside was still the same. My feelings were still the same. No matter how much I tried to change it, they kept eating me from the inside. It never stopped. It never stopped being there. It just kept eating and eating and eating. Why wouldn't it stop already? I tried removing everything that made me think of her. I tried pretending she was never there. Pretending like she never lived. If she never lived, she never died. If she never died, I wouldn't have to endure this feeling of being devoured by my own feelings. The day I graduated arrived. I couldn't even feel excited at this accomplishment. There was no one to share this with. I left this cursed school building, this place that forced me to walk by my sister's dying place each and every day, and walk through the gate one last time. My nerves were numbed. It's been weeks since I have felt anything. I was shrouded in the fog of silence and nothingness. And even though it didn't feel nice, it protected me. It made living bearable, comfortable even. I was protected from feeling my own feelings. Feelings I didn't know how to handle, except burying deep inside myself. Feelings that kept feeding off my sanity. I thought that maybe I was finally safe. Life didn't feel good, but at least it didn't hurt as much as before anymore. Till I saw that cat again. The cat she pet on her first day of school here. Watching the white fur, angled ears, and soft paws approach me dispersed of the comfortable and protective fog in my body, and the covered emotions I spent so much effort on burying deep within. My face clenched. My heart started beating. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Cold sweat erupted on my face, and the urge to empty my stomach on the sidewalk became prevalent. In my mind, this creature was a symbol of everything that had gone downhill. If we hadn't gone here, she wouldn't have met that woman. If we had just turned around and left before our first day started. If maybe I let her pet that damn cat for a few more minutes so we could have come too late to our first day. If he got expelled for not attending the mandatory event, then everything would be fine now. This whole catastrophe, the death, the pain, the tears, it all started here, at this gate, and with this cat. Seeing this godforsaken creature made me boil. Why are you looking at me like that? Don't just rub your filthy face against my leg. Why are you still here? You, this useless, furry piece of meat, are still alive while my sister is dead. Oh no, the cat didn't do anything. I grabbed his neck. It squirmed and thrashed around as my grip was tight. Why? My voice was barely above a whisper. Why is everything around me still here? Well, she isn't. Why? Why is everything around me still the same as if nothing ever happened? I took a few shaky breaths. I tried to contain whatever was rising up inside me, but my restraints are brittle and threatened to burst. Why? Why is this whole damn world acting like nothing ever happened? Why are you still here? My throat started burning as my vocal cords had trouble interpreting my anguish into sounds. Why didn't anyone else die instead of her? Tell me why this world isn't burning and tearing apart. Why is everyone still breathing? Why are you still breathing? Why am I still breathing? Why? Why? Something started brewing inside me, slowly but surely. It grew bigger and bigger and bigger. It grew so big that I couldn't contain it inside me anymore. The chains I put around myself started to crumble. I needed to let it out. I was done being the prey that I was eaten. Now it was my turn to feed. I wanted to see blood. I wanted to kill. I wanted to kill so bad. In that moment, I remember I carried a pocket knife on me. It had a short but sharp blade, perfect for piercing through the soft flesh of a mammal. It was even sharp enough to remove its guts. Red on white looked quite pleasing. It looked like my image on the inside. I didn't stop at the cat. This thing in me wasn't satisfied. It needed more time. It needed more. I wanted to create more misery. More pain. More blood. More guts. Maybe I thought I could replace the gruesome images of animals with the ones I had on my sister's corpse. I thought they'd be easier to bear than those wretched memories. No matter how many animals I killed, big or small, something was still not right. It didn't give me what I was searching for. The thing that resided in me was still hungry. So hungry my body contorted in pain. So hungry it hurt. I just couldn't figure out what for. Mom? The yell that sounded from behind me made my blood run cold. It was a high voice I couldn't recognize, but it made my head jolt up. The steps that slip past me leads towards you. You. Who is that? Standing by your side, grasping your arm tightly and looking at you with a loving gaze. Is that your child? A person birthed from the same tainted blood as you? Why? Tell me, why do you still have someone that loves you after you took my beloved person away? How can this be? How can this be fair? You don't deserve to be loved. You don't deserve to get away with your sin. You don't deserve it to be happier than me. My blood is boiling. My heart is pumping. My forehead sweats. And only one thing crosses my mind. I know what I'm craving for. The animal I want to make miserable isn't a cat, a dog, or a bird. It's you. Should I just kill you? Open your skull and splatter your remains in the cold, dirty ground? Dig my nails into your eyes and listen to you beg for mercy? Shove dirt into your filthy mouth and wait until you suffocate miserably? No. No, death is too easy of a fate for you. Why make you suffer for a short time before being released by death? If I can make you suffer your whole damn life. If you felt the same loss I did. If I took away the person you love the most. Oh, God. Wouldn't that be nice? Now I know what my dream is. And it's time that my dream comes true. Even if it means stalking her. That is not fair to that girl. It really isn't. I mean, you can still torture. You can torture the teacher, even if it means descending into hell. Chapter 0: The Descent. And we reached the end of this demo. Thank you for playing Chapter 0 of Hell Trap. And there's more chapters. So this was just the demo. I know they said there's going to be 15 chapters, but them might change. This is going to be a very long story. Oh my god, that was just so sad. And the fact that the principal, that pisses me off. The principal was saying, no, you're just lying. Why would he think she lied? Now, obviously, the teacher, I know for a fact she's done this. She has to have done this before because she was just so confident and callous and didn't have any empathy whatsoever. She just didn't care. I think what makes it worse is that, you know, she's female and like people don't believe like women don't really like are capable of doing that. So I guess it just makes it easier to hide or like people not to believe like there's no way she would do that. She's like a woman, like women are nurturing and whatnot, so like there's no way they'll do that to a child, even though they can easily hide it. So they're more than capable of doing that to her. I just think it's fair that Julian will go after her. He said he doesn't want her to die like a quick death. I mean, you don't have to go after the daughter. The daughter's innocent. I mean, your sister was innocent, but the daughter's innocent. He could still take the teacher, kidnap her or something, and torture her for days or something, and just keep her alive for his satisfaction. He could still do that. This whole game was just really, really sad. It's just really heavy. Just... I'm looking forward to seeing the end of the story and how it will turn out. I can imagine it's not going to be good. I feel like I know he's gonna not kill the girl. He's gonna have a change of heart. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah.